Welcome to the She Makes Africa podcast, powered by the AWEC Alumni Network. Across Africa, women entrepreneurs are driving the continent's growth, making up 58% of Africa's business founders. Yet the journey of entrepreneurship is often a path filled with both triumphs and trials. It can be a lonely road, but women are rising above these challenges, building resilience, and turning struggles into success. In this podcast, we bring you inspiring stories from African women entrepreneurs who are paving the way for others. Join us over the next 15 to 20 minutes as we explore their journeys of perseverance, growth, and empowerment. We hope their stories ignite your passion and encourage you to keep pushing forward.
Welcome to this episode of the She Makes Africa podcast. My name is Priska Mofunde. I'm based in Harare, Zimbabwe, and I work in the EdTech space, and I am part of AWEC Cohort 4. I'm joined by my co-host, Frida. Frida, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Frida Muyambo. I run a consultancy called Hulu Consulting that focuses on project management skills development within the mining, energy, and infrastructure sectors. I'm based in Harare, Zimbabwe as well, and I am from Cohort 2. Today, we have a special guest from the AWEC community. We have invited her to share about how she is surviving and thriving through the challenges of running her business. Edinam, please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little about your business and what led you to become an entrepreneur.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Edinam Adjei-Sika. I'm from Ghana, and I am the founder of N Us Maternity shop. So about 7 years ago, when I was pregnant, I found it absolutely difficult to find anything to wear. That is clothing that were fashion forward and were comfortable enough for me to wear as a corporate mom. And so I thought of it. After combing through the street of Accra, I would probably just find some corner where in a mother store where they would have an aisle and put in some clothing. But those clothing were not of good quality, and fashion-wise, they were very low. And that's how I birthed the idea of Bams and Us Maternity shop. And so Bams and Us Maternity shop is a one-stop maternity clothing shop located here in Accra, Ghana. And it actually stocks high quality, fashion forward, and modern clothing that caters for the expectant mother right from inception all the way to postpartum.
That is amazing. I wish your business had been around at the time when I was having my children, because I'm sure lots of ladies out there would resonate with the need for fashionable clothing, especially when you make that transition for the first time. It's really difficult.
Very difficult. Yes.
You've been this career woman. You can walk into any shop and you can dress yourself up, and then suddenly you have this bump and there's nothing that looks good anymore, and no one is talking. So well done for providing the service that was really birthed out of your own need. So
Thank you.
Edinam, we would really love for you to share about your AWEC journey. How did you find out about AWEC, and what are the top 2 things you learned on the program that have significantly impacted your business?
Okay, so I think that I actually just bumped into the advertisement on a friend's page. And then I went on to the site, I read everything, and it was actually my first try. And so I went through the page, I read, and especially the instructions as to how to fill the form. It actually was very helpful. And then I went ahead and then I filled the form. It was about some few days to the deadline. And I was very excited when I got the opportunity to be part of Cohort 6 here. And it was a very good journey. I met a lot of people, and I always say that AWEC gave us the opportunity to actually have a free MBA. It was like everything I would have paid for an entrepreneurial MBA. And one of the things that stood out for me were, let me say, the assignments that were given. With each assignment, it was like an opportunity for me to mirror into my own business and, try to find out all the issues that I had not thought about. So I remember very well the customer journey experience, for example. It's something I had never thought of to actually think through. And mostly as an entrepreneur and somebody who is actually providing service, I was always thinking on my side what I thought was good for my target audience. But with this assignment, for example, I was able to think through being on the side of the client, okay? And, going step by step. And this was very helpful. Another thing that was very helpful was actually doing the financial statement, doing the cost analysis. These are things that sometimes when you're one business person who is still struggling with structures, you don't really go into your books that much. And so I loved that aspect of it, where I had to actually focus on my books, look at the cost involved, and actually see if I was actually being profitable or just running my business as a hobby. And so these stood out for me. And I love AWEC.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Edinam. I love that you described the AWEC program as an MBA, because it really is. It's not something that you just do in the classroom and then submit assignments for. This is something that we are doing on live businesses, implementing as we go and making changes and seeing growth as we implement these changes. So thank you for that. I guess it makes it really worth it that, we come together and meet once a year at a General Assembly to usher in the new bunch of women. And you being from cohort 6 means that right now there's a cohort 7 happening in place. And that tells speaks to the size of the AWEC community. We are 1,200 women as of 2024, and we represent a vast amount of industries, from hospitality, travel, finance, business services, and of course retail and manufacturing. It's pretty amazing. But one thing we have realized from being a part of this network is that the challenges we face as female entrepreneurs and our journeys share common threads. This makes our stories powerful tools for encouraging and inspiring others. Can you share your story of surviving and thriving through a major business challenge? What happened and why, and how critical did it get? Where are you now, and how did you get there?
All right, Frida, thank you. So maternity clothing, in actual fact, is something new, probably at this part of our world, and I will speak about Ghana. And so most of the clothing that I bring into the shop are imported. We supply from the UK and the US mainly. So what hits the business had to do with inflation. We had, for the past 2 years, it's been very bad. And this shook the business because the only way we could supply our clothing is to import. And here we were with rising prices of imported clothing due to the unstable nature of the exchange rate. And with the unstable nature of the exchange rate, of course, you would bring in the clothing and you would have to price them higher than usual. And obviously, the clients were complaining because their purchasing power was reducing. And so this hit us so much because here we are, we've spent so much money in bringing these clothing and we're not getting our client buying. Everyone was basically thinking of their basic needs, and maternity clothing wouldn't be part of that.
Coming up next.
Here we are seated with all our clothing watching us.
I think many entrepreneurs across Africa can relate.
So what did we do? How can we run a sustainable business with Bams and Us?
You should open a university.
That was one of the new side of our business.
More after the break. This is the She Makes Africa podcast, brought to you by the AWEC Alumni Network. We are here to build a community for African women entrepreneurs. If you have a story to tell, share it with us. Also, if you know a sister who could benefit from the AWEC program, encourage her to sign up and make a difference. Subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or on Spotify for podcasters if you would like to help us expand our reach. Like, share, comment. Thank you for listening.
So what did we do? Here we are seated with all our clothing watching us. We had to go back to the table, tried so many, marketing and promotional ideas to push our product. But we sat down and then we realized that how can we run a sustainable business with Bams and Us? It was not possible, basically just looking out there and importing. It's not a feasible idea. And so we decided to scout internally and try to find local factories that could help us make a good number of our clothing in the same quality that we're bringing from Europe and from the US. And so luckily we met a factory, a local factory. We sat with them. So we started having to be creative and bring on board our own designs. Initially, the problem was that for us to get a competitive price with this local supplier, we had to produce in bulk. So initially, this was hard for us because we now had to get huge amount of money to put into the factory production, even though it was locally. And once we were able to overcome this initial stage, we were able to beat down the prices and began to sell to our clientele. But here comes the problem. People locally are a little bit skeptical. I do not know about the other African countries, but in Ghana, it's getting better, but it takes a lot to convince people when they see your clothing tag, meaning that it's made in Ghana and it's made by Bams and Us. So this was something that we had to deal with. But how did we deal with this? We dealt with this by ensuring that we had very quality. So we ensured that every clothing that came from that factory was well done. We inspected it. The ones that had a thread, going here and coming out of there, were taken back to the factory, and we ensured that the quality was top notch. Once we were able to get over the quality, we noticed that with the good pricing that we're giving them, people began to accept the product. They would not even ask where it was made. And gradually, we were able to solve this issue that had to do with the exchange rate. And so currently, we have almost all our corporate wear line, because that was one of the new side of our business, trying to cater for women that were moving from their homes to the boardroom and were pregnant, and we still wanted them to remain confident. And so we have, been able to create a niche for ourselves here in Ghana, that any corporate woman that is pregnant and needs from, the office wear, skirt, trousers, they know that they are assured of good quality clothing made right here in Ghana and found at N Us Maternity shop. So once we're able to overcome this step, we have been able to also expand into other clothing beyond the office wear. So now we make casual clothing, and in a few months' time, we have already set up our own. So instead of outsourcing into the factory, we have decided that we want to make a variety of clothing, because what the factory was doing is that it was limiting us due to the bulk purchase that we needed to do. We couldn't go in with more than maybe 3 styles because we had a minimum quantity that we had to do. But since the brand is now known in Ghana and has been accepted, we have created our in-house factory where we would move and create different designs as and when the need is. And so this is how we have been able to overcome an importation situation that made it very difficult for us to move our clothing. It wasn't sustainable, and moving more towards a more sustainable fashion house that caters for the needs of the expectant man.
Edinam, that is an incredible, incredible story of resilience and building sustainability into your business and your brand. And I loved that it is something that I think many entrepreneurs across Africa can relate to when it comes to things like inflation and unstable exchange rates, especially when you're working with a product that is imported. And the shift to looking more internally speaks to building capacity even within Ghana and the factory that you were supporting. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. And I smiled when you mentioned skepticism of local brands, and I think I completely agree. I completely agree that as Africans, we need to take more pride in things that are proudly African and be more supportive of our local entrepreneurs. So I'd be really keen to understand, is there anything you learned from the AWEC program or from the AWEC community that helped you navigate this challenge better?
Yes. You know, when we were during the program, they actually, and I will still talk about the MBA aspect of it. It was just, you know, an eye-opening opportunity with AWEC. So, you know, to start off, when we started talking about our account statement, profit and loss, like I had mentioned, that is where I actually noticed how much we were spending on importation and how that was actually affecting, you know, our profit margin. And for me, because I was in corporate Ghana, I was already working till now and doing this also on the side. I was actually not paying myself. And so when I had to do a cost analysis, I was actually incorporating every other employee except myself, who was spending so many hours doing almost everything, being the procurement person, being the social media person, being the marketing person, and I wasn't paying myself. And so that affected even the pricing of the clothing. And so during AWEC, I was able to identify these things. One, the lines that had to go into costing of our product. And this really helped. And so right after, I started paying myself. And it wasn't because I was actually even spending into the business. It was because I just kept, you know, pushing all the income back into the business, but did not pay myself. Even if I wasn't taking the money, I was not incorporating that into the pricing of my items. And so I realized that I was almost running an NGO, so I thought I was doing business, but in truth, the profit margins were so low because I was not factoring in a lot of items in the pricing. Another thing that actually helped a lot was when we had to do something about the supply chain. I think we talked about the whole production cycle. And so how long it took for you to get your supplies, how long it would take to get to you in whatever country, and the whole process. And then I realized that this whole importation was delaying the actual process. What was happening? It takes me about 8 weeks approximately to get my items from the US to Ghana, and it takes between 4 to 6 weeks to get it into Ghana from the UK. And I had not studied this cycle to help me make informed decisions when it came to stocking. And so there'll be times when instead of selling, some items will be out of stock. And because I was not following the stock levels. And so I'll wait until probably, oh, there are 2 items left. And that's when I'm rushing to go and make an order in the US or in the UK. Meaning I was just letting money go. Clients will come in and there are no products to sell. And so during the AWEC period, I was able to study this, understand it better, because it was an assignment where we had to actually, you know, write the number of weeks, the number of days that it took us. And that was an eye-opener. Once I was able to see on paper clearly what I was doing wrong, it affected the whole stocking process of the company. And so now I know when, at what stock level, I have to rush and start putting in an order. And so that helped a lot. Yeah, and I'm still using that for my business.
This is, you should open a university. Like you have just taken us through your life MBA and directly learned about import and export, financial
Yes.
modeling, profit and
Mm-hmm.
loss,
Yes.
lead and lag time, manufacturing lead and lag times. Like these are
Perfect.
very hard skills. Like you can run a factory, you can be an engineer, right? Seriously, so this is truly wonderful. And I have taken away so many nuggets from this alone, but I'm pretty serious. Like you should be giving what you call it, webinars, you know?
I actually should and monetize it.
Yeah, but the impact you can make, I mean, the other day we talked about the impact AWEC ladies can make just to one person. If we made a difference just to one person, that's
Yes.
1,200 more women being impacted, and that
Yeah.
can only grow. And when a woman is impacted, communities are impacted.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm listening to your story. It's very evident that you have been so thoughtful about going through AWEC and actually applying those concepts that you were learning into your business and see your business from completely different angles and ways that were able to change how you approached it. So amazing. So, community, we have heard it from Edinam. She has shared her story about how she survived and has brought her business to a point where it's thriving. She has adapted her supply chain and in the process has managed to empower and support other businesses in Ghana. Absolutely, absolutely amazing.
Yes, I concur. I concur. So, Edinam, we would like to thank you for your generosity and the knowledge that you have shared. And what I would like to do is turn over to you, audience, in classic AWEX style, as you have listened. What is your key takeaway from this podcast? Please leave us a message in the comments section and let us know the action you have been inspired to take in your personal life or your business. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Edinam.
Thank you for having me.
Once again, thank you very much for joining the She Makes Africa podcast, brought to you through the efforts of the AWEC Alumni Network. Until next time, let's collaborate.